Okay, I'm Angela Atkinson and I'm the author of these three titles here, all three of which you can get at the library shop. So I think just to tell you a little bit about each one to give you a flavour of what they're about. So Secret Swindon is the first one that came out a couple of years ago. It's, as you can see, it's full of photographs. How would I describe this book? I think as a Doctor Who fan, I'd probably call it a bit of a timey-wimey tour through, as much of Swindon's past and its present, not just history, but also its cultural landscape, as I could possibly squeeze into the word count. So that's, about the best way that I can describe that one. It's a mixture of history and it's a mixture of arts and public art and buildings, aviation. It's all here. There's a flavour of most of Swindon within this one. So then last year, the second one that I published is Swindon in 50 Buildings. This one, well, it's doing what it says on the title, to be fair. It's 50 buildings in Swindon. It was difficult picking the ones to go in. They all had to be standing buildings. This was the publisher's remit. They had to be buildings that are still standing. I couldn't write about anything that's gone. And it had to be in chronological order. But because Swindon's so large, they did let me, geographically spread out, they did let me divide it into areas. So we've got West Swindon, we've got Central, and we've got Old Town and other parts of Swindon. So it's an eclectic mix of buildings, not necessarily beautiful buildings, they're not necessarily listed buildings, they're not necessarily old buildings, but buildings, all of which tell a story. For instance, we have a pub here, a 1970s themed pub, the Crumpled Horn, which actually is possibly one of my very favourites just because it is so wacky and so out there. And this was Swindon's most recent listed building. It went on the register just a couple of years ago. So that's Swindon in 50 Buildings. They've all got a story to tell. So it's more about the story of the people and what happened in that building than dry architectural details. So if you think, oh, I'm not interested in, architectural details, it's not so much about that. So that's Swindon in 50 Buildings. And then that brings us to my most recent publication, Swindon, a Born Again Swindonian Guide. And as the title indicates, this is a guidebook. It's full of it's a book for doing. It's a book for doing with rather than for sitting and reading. The idea is, that it's got various trails and walks in it, and that you'd go off and follow all these walks. It's urban exploration. It's doorstep wandering. And now in our current situation with more restrictions again, thanks to COVID, the ideal time to get out and about and explore a bit more of Swindon. So there's photographs. There's also a lot of these lovely illustrations by Swindon artist Marilyn True. The book is stuffed full of those. And this is a book for the family as well. It's not just for adults. There are a couple of kids' trails in it. Quiz trails is one in Old Town and one round Central Swindon. And the answers are at the back of the book. So there's family activities in it. There's things to do and also, some general information. So it covers, again, we could cover sculpture, we cover parks and gardens, blue plaques, boats. Again, there's something for everybody in it. So that's the current one, Swindon, a Born Again Swindonian's Guide. Thank you. What does that look like?